but what exactly is secret network?
So first of all, generally speaking, it's an L1 blockchain with smart contracts, very much like Ethereum, like Solana, like Terra, but it has one uniqueness that other networks don't have, and that is that we offer programmable privacy. Programmable privacy is basically the ability to keep everything that's done inside of a smart contract, to keep it private as you wish. So like users can encrypt their inputs, the outputs of any functionality can be encrypted, the state for each contract, the state, which is the contract's database, can be encrypted end to end. And I think the best analogy to explain it, essentially what Monero and Zcash did to Ethereum, did to Bitcoin with private transactions, Secret Network does that to smart contract chains like Ethereum.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ben, and as usual, I am the host of today's podcast. Today, we have Guy Zyskind, the co-founder of Secret Network and also Secret Labs. Welcome to the podcast, Guy.
Hey, Ben. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you on board, And for starters, I always like to do this with our speakers. Before we dive in, could you please share a little bit about yourself and how you got into crypto and what led you to creating a secret?
So I guess I'm a technical person, engineer, I guess almost born and raised. I've been programming since I was like 12. I've always been very technical. I think I got into crypto fairly early on. I started looking into it 2012, 2013 really seriously. And then 2014, I basically decided to make the jump full time. So 2014, I started my graduate studies at MIT. And just before I started school, there was a hackathon, an MIT hackathon, dealing with blockchain and Bitcoin. And so I did a project there. That project actually won some prize, and I was at that point sold and decided that that's what I want to do full time, and have been doing it since.
Oh, so there's some hints about what Secret Network is, because there's the word secret in it. But what exactly is Secret Network?
Yeah, so Secret Network. So first of all, generally speaking, it's an L1 blockchain with smart contracts, very much like Ethereum, like Solana, like Terra, but it has one uniqueness that other networks don't have, and that is that we offer programmable privacy. Programmable privacy is basically the ability to keep all everything that's done inside of a smart contract, to keep it private as you wish. So like users can encrypt their inputs, the outputs of any functionality can be encrypted, the state for each contract, the state, which is the contract's database, can be encrypted end to end. And I think the best analogy to explain it is essentially what Monero and Zcash did to Bitcoin with private transactions. Secret Network does that to smart contract chains like Ethereum. So basically, it takes the privacy to the smart contract layer and not just with the transaction layer.
So, a lot of people talk about how crypto is, is to help maintain privacy and it's anonymous. I think for a lot of our readers out there, when they hear privacy, anonymous, all these kind of things, they already assume, crypto is like that. You kind of mentioned it, that it's that chains like Secret bring it down to the smart contract layer. could you explain the difference between the level of privacy you have between, chains like Ethereum and chains like Secret?
So let's say the way I like to describe it is there's 3 levels of privacy. There's 3 or maybe even 4. There's there's transactional privacy. Transactional privacy basically means I'm using a blockchain, and I want to transfer some funds maybe to you, Ben, and we want to make sure that only you and me know that we sent money to each other, and only you and me know that how much we sent. Everyone else just knows that the transaction happened, that it was fine, but that's all we get to know. That's transactional privacy or transactional anonymity, and that is something that blockchains like Monero and Zcash do, but blockchains like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and most blockchains don't actually do. Normal blockchains, that's a common misconception. Normal blockchains, a lot of people, and I think that's an issue that mainstream media popularized. A lot of people think that normal blockchains like Bitcoin are private or anonymous, but it's not the case, because as I think we all know, or many of the people in the space know, everything recorded on a public blockchain like Bitcoin, Ethereum is public for everyone to see. Now, it's true that Bitcoin, Ethereum, it doesn't really use my actual name, right, and my actual address. It uses a pseudonym, essentially some address, which is a long random number to represent myself. But still, every transaction that I make using that address is both public for everyone to see and also connected. So like everyone can see all of the transactions that I've seen, even if they don't really know that it's my name. And just so that people understand, the pseudonymity is not real privacy. It's not at all. There are many papers. Actually, like some of my colleagues back in grad school wrote papers on how you can de-anonymize pseudo addresses and pseudonyms and all that. So it's really, really not private, even though people think that is. So those are 2 levels of privacy. On the transactional level, it's like pseudonymity, which all blockchains provide, but it's not real privacy. And then you have true anonymity, which Monero and Zcash does. And the 3rd level of privacy is what we do at Secret, and we call it, like I said, programmable privacy or computational privacy. And the idea is that there you can keep private not just who you are, your address, or your the amount that you send. You can actually keep private anything, and usually anything in the business logic that your application needs. And let me give you a very, very simple example. Imagine there's a game of poker built on the blockchain. And the blockchain is essentially the dealer. I mean, that can be done in a smart contract. You program the poker game in a smart contract, and then the dealer is the contract itself. So it's the blockchain. It shuffles the cards. It checks like who won in each round, and so forth. Now, in any blockchain except Secret, so in Ethereum, for example, if you do that, you can't actually play the game, because if you think about poker, you need privacy there inherently, because let's say you and I are playing, right? If I see your cards and you see mine, there's no game. So that's like the higher level of privacy that we do at Secret, and clearly why it's needed, right? Like there are actually many applications that you just can't build on the blockchain unless you enable that level of privacy.
You mentioned some great examples, right? You gave the poker example, and there are kind of like 2 things I want to raise here. You mentioned Zcash and Monero, and I think other similar chains that operate on this principle is also Oasis and the Pala network. Could you elaborate like what separates Secret from these kind of chains or coins?
Sure. So like I said, Secret is very different than something like Monero and Zcash. First of all, to be honest, Secret itself, the token, the transactions themselves, they are not private directly. So Secret is actually, as a token, as a coin, it's closer to Bitcoin and Ethereum. However, there's a mechanism, kind of like in Zcash, to turn any secret that you have to secret, which is the privacy representation of secret, which can hide your identity and the amount of money that you have and that you send. But again, Zcash and Monero, they only work on the transaction level. Like you can do something like a poker application using Zcash or Monero, but you can't do it using Secret. Now, as far as I know, Oasis and Fala, they are trying to do something similar to Secret. So I would say that Oasis and Fala are let's say, in the same category, Secret. As far as I know, Oasis is layer 2, or at least the privacy aspect is layer 2. And Fala is, I think, is supposed to run on Polkadot ecosystem, whereas we work on Cosmos ecosystem. But the biggest difference, and actually the main difference, is that both Oasis and Fala, even if they're supposed to be similar, they don't exist yet. They're just theoretical. Secret is live and has been live for a year and a half now, and it's the only chain that gives programmable privacy that is available in production at the moment.
You mentioned the poker application as example, but I'm sure there are a lot of more practical applications that people may be using right now. Could you give some other examples of where we need this data to be private?
Yeah, so there are countless applications, and I think we're just like, at the tip of the iceberg. The simplest application, not necessarily the one I care about the most, but the simplest one is private tokens. So just like Ethereum have ERC20s, Secret has SNP20s, and you can take any coin, any token, wrap it as a SNP20, and then turn it into an anonymous coin like Zcash and Monero. And by the way, using the bridges that we have available, you can actually take Ethereum and Bitcoin and pretty much any coin out there and turn it into a private token. So you can actually turn Ethereum on Secret into something like Monero and Zcash. So that's one use case. The other use case, like I said, poker is a great use case, but it's an example of a much wider set of use cases. So, gaming today is becoming a real thing on the blockchain. But most actual games, they require what is known as imperfect information. So poker is a game of imperfect information where each party sees a different part of the information set. I see my cards, you see your cards. But as a matter of fact, most games have some component of imperfect information, and all of those games can be and should be built on something like Secret. Then you can think about DAOs and governance. So DAOs today, any governance today is completely public. That means that you can see what your biggest VCs and biggest holders voted for, and if you actually go into different DAOs and see like how they vote on proposals, you would see that the votes look more like dictatorships than democracies. And the reason is that once people see what the big holders vote for, everyone kind of like falls into place and it creates an echo chamber. And it's like, 95+% voting yes or voting no at the same time. So we really think that for DAOs to be sustainable and useful, you need to have private voting. You need to have the ability for people to vote, but not to be biased by other votes and not to be able to see what other people have voted for. And DAOs on Secret Network, that's how they operate. There's already the CeFi token community, which does private voting. And if you look at historical votes, you're going to see that they resemble democracies much more than other DAOs. And there's now other projects that are going to use that same private voting mechanism. And then I think the last one I want to touch, although there's so many of those, but
Sure. Go ahead.
The last one I want to touch is secret NFTs. So the maybe the biggest joke around NFTs today is the right-click save issue, right? That even though I technically own an NFT, you can go ahead and copy it by right-click saving it. And with secret NFTs, because of the privacy mechanism, you can actually program the NFT such that you keep the content itself encrypted, and you only allow the person who actually owns the NFT to decrypt the associated data and see it. So to me, that's like a super exciting use case, and I think that's a way to make all NFTs more useful.
Wow, that's very interesting. Number one, I'm trade a lot of NFTs as well, so I can completely see the appeal of that. But more importantly, I really like the governance example because it's just very reflective of what's happening in real life, right? In practice, we vote. We're not allowed to review who we vote for. It's meant to be private. We have the option of doing so, but when we go and vote, it's all private. And it's quite interesting because I never thought about that on DAOs, but it makes complete sense that it should be private.
Agreed.
Okay, moving back, earlier you mentioned a bit about the secret token, right? So I assume secret token will act like a gas token, but are there any utility cases for the token itself?
Yeah, so it's a gas token. I mean, it is used as a gas token. It's a governance coin, so you can vote on the network's decisions. Anytime there's a hard fork or any type of network upgrade, the network has to vote on that. Any change in parameters, the network has to vote on that. And also there's, just like on any Cosmos chain, and Secret is a layer 1 Cosmos chain, there's some amount of the coin's inflation is reserved as a community pool. And then the community can vote on how to spend those funds. They are locked on chain and the community can vote on it. And there's been a lot of projects, committees, things of value that it's basically a budget for the network, and the network as a whole votes on it using the coin. And obviously Secret is heavily used in many kinds of applications and just with projects that kind of collaborate with us. Yep. So just in the next 1 to 2 months, there's going to be between 5 to 10 projects that are going to airdrop their token in the Token Genesis event to people who stake their Secret. So that's very common. It's not a direct utility, but it's a very interesting implied and collaborative utility.
So one thing I've noticed is that a lot of projects recently have been building on the Cosmos ecosystem. Even just a few weeks ago, we had Osmosis on board, and I like to ask all of them this: like, why did you pick the Cosmos ecosystem?
So Secret was actually one of the first Cosmos chains out there officially. Like we launched in early 2020. Why did we choose Cosmos? So actually back then, first of all, Secret was initially meant to be a layer 2 on Ethereum, and we already saw that this simply doesn't scale enough and doesn't work well. And that was before gas became completely unsustainable. So we decided to move to layer 1. And we had 3 options. We could build our own or fork something. Forking seemed to be like a bad model. Building our own seemed like a waste of time. Our focus was the encryption and privacy and all that. There was no point to build our own consensus. And so that left 2 options. It was either Cosmos or Polkadot. And first of all, Cosmos was live back then. So that was obviously a plus. Cosmos didn't require you to use shared security. So basically to use the native Cosmos Hub token.
Yep.
You can basically build your own sovereign chain. That was reason number 2. And reason number 3 was a bit more technical than that. So my background is in research, mostly around MPC, but also around distributed systems. And I just went through like the different white papers and consensus protocols. And I was just amazed about what Cosmos and Tendermint did. I don't think many people understand that. I think it was Ethan Buckman, so like one of Cosmos founders. So the Tendermint consensus, which was his master thesis, it was actually an improvement and a pretty strong improvement on practical BFT, which was the state-of-the-art consensus BFT consensus protocol since the early 2000s. And here comes a blockchain project and actually builds a better consensus protocol. And I was like, okay, if these guys are capable of like actually improving the state of the art with research without like all of that, like without like the bells and whistles and the superlative, just actually do the work, then this is probably a great framework and great technology and something we should be working on. So all of those components kind of came into the clear decision, which I feel was the right decision to build on Cosmos.
Oh, great. Okay. We've been talking a lot about privacy, but there are some trade-offs as well, right? Because how do you reconcile privacy with principles like accountability and transparency? You mentioned earlier Bloomberg and all were reporting about the issues with Bitcoin and everything, where we can't trace the guy. And you say it wasn't really true, but this is actually true for Secret. So yeah.
I'm gonna be a bit maybe direct and actually not agree with you here.
Okay, sure, please go ahead.
I think what motivated me to create Secret originally was to actually show that accountability and transparency is not in contradiction to privacy. Like I was trying to show, and I think for the most part, I wouldn't say it's perfect, but for the most part, I think Secret shows that you can have accountability and you can have transparency where you need it, but anywhere you don't need it, you can still maintain privacy. And if you think about blockchains are about accountability and correctness. They're not about transparency. They're about correctness. They're about making sure that no one cheats, making sure that data is safe and can be tampered with. But no one said that data has to be transparent. It's only transparent because that's the easiest way to make sure that no one cheats. So that's why I disagree. I don't think there's a real trade-off here. I think reconciling it is using better privacy-enhancing technologies that don't hurt accountability, that don't hurt selective transparency, let's say. That's my thinking. And let me give you an example. For example, like in Secret, first of all, anything that you do privately, there's still consensus. So you know that no one can cheat. So even though you and I, let's say in a poker application on chain, even though you and I can't see each other's cards and no one else in the system or in the blockchain can see them, like we can all be comfortable that none of us was able to invent our cards or change them or do anything. So you still get accountability. And in that case, you don't need transparency. And let's take the case of, I think the only case that there's maybe some trade-off there and some reconciliation needed is in the cases of private messaging and private transactions. So like I said, Secret itself is not technically a private coin, but you can turn both Secret and then the other coin into a private token in the system. And once you do that, obviously, that hides it from everyone else. That's good. But what about like, things like hacks or things like regulators or things like, for AML reasons and all that. So that's the only place where I think there needs to be some balance. And what we did what we did when building that platform is that we built the concept of viewing keys. Viewing keys is essentially allows any user to give read-only access for the transaction history to whomever they want. And actually, there are now there's tax services built.
Yep.
There's a tax utility built on Secret where you can very easily take your transactions, including private transactions, just give them to your accountant. We use that as a company. So I think that's the way we reconcile that bit specifically. But I think that's the best you can do. At the end of the day, technology can be used for both good and evil. We're doing our best to make sure it's used for good.
I really like how you pointed out that transparency need not be present, because I think humans conventionally we grow up, we believe in a higher power, in a higher authority, etc., etc. And the reason why transparency is so important is because, to be blunt, we just don't trust them, right? There needs to be some element of trust. But I think you rightly pointed out here, because we're putting it in the hands of technology, and we can trust that the consensus system is strong. Transparency is not needed, which I think it's a very good mindset that needs to be recalibrated for when we come to this conversation. Thank you for illuminating my mind on that.
Of course.
Okay. So, there's one thing I would like to address as well. Another thing that quite often happens in society is, there's no doubt about it. Humans generally, we value our privacy. We're very private mammals. But modern society has kind of made us complacent, and we tend to give up our privacy in exchange for conveniences. So the easiest and biggest example is probably Facebook. We use the platform in exchange, they data mine, they get all our personal information. And I'm not sure whether we are aware, but we just don't care, or we don't know. Either way, we do it. My question to you is, how do we encourage users to protect themselves more and start using platforms like Secret?
So before, that is a great question. It's something that we deal with every day and think about a lot ourselves, to be very, very honest. Before I answer that, I do want to mention that privacy is not just a human right and something we should care about more. We should, but if there's one takeaway message from this entire discussion, I want people to realize that privacy is something that in many cases we need. There are actually applications that just cannot survive, cannot work without privacy, because it's needed on a functional level. And I think voting is a good example. I think private voting is what we use in our society today for a very good reason. I think for games, many games and many applications like that, you need to be able to segment who sees what, because otherwise the game or the application doesn't work. So again, the one takeaway message is it's not just about caring our privacy. We need privacy in blockchains and in society, because there are many things that don't function well without it. Now, when it comes to Facebook and us being complacent about our privacy, honestly, it's a big issue. And I think blockchains in general have taught us that we shouldn't try to, we should try to build systems that incentivize people to do the right thing, or to do the thing that's best for everyone, to do the social good. And I think there's some component in educating people, hey, you should care more about your privacy, and that is important. We're doing it. Other people are doing that. The EFF, for example, is a great foundation that takes care of it. But at the end of the day, I think it's up to us to just build better systems using privacy, using blockchain technology, using decentralized systems that incentivize users to use our systems regardless of privacy, because they're just better. And I'm going to give you a very simple example, very, very simple example. Facebook right now is going for the metaverse, right?
Yep.
And what is the metaverse in Facebook eyes? It's probably some 3D world that they control, and it's a social world that people can interact with each other. And there's some currency that they bring in, so you can pay people for virtual goods and all that, and NFTs. But all of that is going to stay in Facebook closed garden. Now, people should already be very scared, very afraid of that. I know I am.
Yeah.
But will we be able to tell people, hey, come to our system because it's more private, our open metaverse because it's on the blockchain, it's more private? I don't think that's our way to lure people in. I think the way to lure people in is by telling them the next metaverse is not going to be closed garden in one place with one currency. There's going to be a multiverse. There's going to be many metaverses. And you're going to take your avatar, your character, you're going to build your social credibility there, and you're going to be able to travel from one platform to the other, from one metaverse to the other. You're going to be able to you're going to be able to trade different goods from different markets very, very easily. Oh, and that should tell people, hey, you're going to get a lot more utility in the open metaverse compared to the closed garden metaverse. Oh, and by the way, that open metaverse, you're going to be able to control your own data. You're going to get superior privacy. No one's going to be able to track you if you don't want them to. Like, that's the side benefit. Because we built a more engaging system, hopefully that's the goal, then we can imbue and build a better system with better privacy controls. But I don't think that's the way to get people, into the system.
I think what you described is basically whole Web3, right? And a lot of people now are complaining about the user interfaces and everything. Oh, it's very complicated and everything. But a lot of people also draw comparisons back to when the internet first came out, how everything was very inconvenient and ugly. And, we're kind of improving on that. But I think what you're saying is right. It's essentially how you market your product. And we need to make everyone's lives easier. And I think for privacy, like you mentioned, that might be the best way forward. Like, marketing is like a side benefit rather than the core product, because like you said, most people may not really care because they don't know well enough.
I agree. And again, I do think education is still important, and it's important for people. And I don't think education is going to move the needle that much. It's going to move it some. But again, it's not the primary method. I do think that many privacy-aware organizations and even Secret Network as a whole is taking its share in educating people that they should care more about their privacy.
I have one last question to round off the entire session. What are Secret's plans for 2022?
I haven't been sleeping much, and like I said, like off the record, my wife isn't that happy with me because of like how much I'm working. And I think the reason is, and I'm gonna split it into two. The reason is, first of all, that Secret ecosystem is growing so much so rapidly. I just can't keep track with all the projects that are coming to us and are saying that they're building on Secret. So I think first and foremost, our plan is to see more and more people come and build on our network, which is happening. And I think we're breaking out, like we're reaching escape velocity right now. We're just growing into such a huge ecosystem that it's really, really hard to track. So that's, I guess, this is not something I can easily describe because there's so many, but I think that's a general thing I wanna say. When it comes to Secret core team and to Secret Labs, which is the company that I'm leading, and what we're doing is, so first and foremost, we are doing a lot of infrastructure upgrades. We've been scaling. So we've seen some hiccups with some of the releases on our network. They didn't crash the network, but they made blocks take longer, and they made centralized services. Things like Ethereum has. Sorry, I'm running blank on the name, but Ethereum has Infura, so we have services like that, and those services, when they were like big launches and that kind of stuff, like some of them actually crashed. So it's not the network, but still from a user perspective, it's not great. So we've been building a lot of improvements a lot of technical improvements that we're going to add to the network. We've seen speed ups, depends on the use case, that range between 20 to 500x. So it's going to be extremely meaningful. And we are planning to have at least 2 upgrades for the network this year. One of them actually coming in April. That's going to add these infrastructure benefits. And then a huge thing that we're working on is IBC v2. So right now, most chains or all chains, they use IBC version 1. For people who don't know, IBC is basically the bridge that connects all Cosmos chains together and soon even chains outside of Cosmos. And we are IBC enabled. That means that you can move tokens from secret to other chains like Osmosis, and you can move Luna and UST to secret and so forth. So that's IBC v1. So it's tokens only. IBC v2 is the ability to call a smart contract on one chain and then interoperate with a smart contract on another chain. And for example, if you think about something like DAOs, then imagine there's a DAO that lives on Terra, right? But for private voting, that DAO then goes and does the voting logic on secret network to make sure that it's private. So something like that would need to be able to call from one contract on Terra to one contract on secret. That's what we call IBC v2, and that's something that we're working very, very strongly on. In addition to that, and the last thing that I'm really excited about is that we're working on a platform called Legend DAO. Legend DAO is honestly, it's a new kind of NFT platform, like nothing you've ever seen before. It kind of connects DeFi with NFTs, with some gamified aspects. It's going to be really, really cool. We're going to bring a lot of brand name artists to mint on that platform as well. And that's something that we're building right now and are going to launch within the next 1 to 2 months.
Oh, sounds awesome. Before I end the session, do you have any last words for our listeners? Maybe some call to action points or where they can find Secret and to learn more about Secret?
Sure. So I would strongly say, okay, first of all, best place is secret.network website. That's it's secret without the E's. It's like the ticker name. So it's SCRT.network. And then there you can find Secret Network's Twitter, Discord, and Telegram. So you really should join our community. Also, for anyone who wants to be more engaged, there's a Secret Agents program. You can also find it on the website. And that's our best way to kind of collaborate and become a more meaningful part of the network. We already have, I think, about 10,000 people registered there that are helping out. So that's a great place to do. And then when it comes to Legend DAO specifically, you can go to Legend DAO, it's with 1D.io. You can read more about Legend DAO there, and you can join again our Discord and Twitter and get more information. And finally, I recommend that to everyone. If you are a secret holder or want to become a secret holder, stake it, because a lot of projects are collaborating with Secret. These are not even projects we're building, but a lot of projects have already committed to airdropping a pretty meaningful chunk of their Genesis tokens to Secret stakers. So that's something that's probably very beneficial.
All right. I think that about wraps it up. Thank you so much, Guy, for coming on board and sharing us a lot about what Secret and privacy is all about.
Thank you very much, Ben. Thanks for having me, and I appreciate the time.
Yeah, no problem. And to our listeners, we actually also have an article on Secret. So if you want to learn more, do check it out on our bus. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
For the latest crypto prices, visit our website. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to keep up to date on the latest crypto trends.